Good evening, everyone, and welcome. I'm Steve Donovan, the Director of Alumni Relations at Trinity, and it's my pleasure to welcome you to the virtual long walk. I hope you're all well and preparing for some food and family and maybe some football for those who partake this week as Thanksgiving approaches. In normal times, President Berger-Sweeney makes it a priority to travel around the country and the world to bring news of the college to alumni, parents of students, and friends of the college, and to hear from you about your observations, questions, compliments, and any concerns for Trinity. These are anything but normal times, and the pandemic has temporarily halted large in-person gatherings, but the president won't let that stop her from these important conversations. Thus, I'm delighted to introduce the 22nd president of Trinity College, Joanne Berger-Sweeney, who will share news of significant progress with us, and then entertain your questions, some of which you submitted in advance, and some will take live via the Q&A feature of Zoom at the bottom of your screen. So the Q&A feature for questions, not the chat function if you can. And then I'll rejoin at that point to moderate the Q&A. But for now, let me turn it over to President Berger-Sweeney.
Thank you, Steve, for your introduction. And thanks to all of you who are joining us this evening. Actually, I'm going to take off my glasses as much as I can because I realize the reflection does odd things to the camera. So we will see if I can get by without my reader glasses. But I want to welcome you all. I hope that you're safe wherever you are. And sometimes at the end of these sessions, I get so excited that I forget to stop and wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving. So I want to start today by wishing all of you a very happy Thanksgiving and hope that you are able to spend it with friends or family or loved ones. But I hope that we all stop and recognize just how much we have to be grateful for. Here, I am grateful that at least thus far, we have had a terrific semester at Trinity. We have worked very hard to keep our students, our faculty, and our staff members safe and engaged now that we are back on campus, mostly together. We all know it's been a bit of a trying 21 months, but we really have been able to see significant progress here at Trinity College. And what I plan to do over the next half hour or so is show you some of the progress that we have made, but then leave the remainder of the time for your questions to see what interests you and what is on your mind concerning Trinity College or higher education more generally. So with that, I will begin as I said, brief about half hour, and for a professor, a half-hour presentation really is quite brief. And then, as I said, we will open it up to your questions. So if you give me just a minute, I will try and share my screen and begin my presentation. So I have entitled this presentation, Bringing Our Strategies to Life, so that we can talk a little bit about how we are evolving from our strategic plan, integrating some of our newer planning efforts, and supporting our key priorities and maintaining the momentum that we think that we've gained certainly in the last 2 years. Now, I will tell you that the presentation that I am sharing with you is basically the same presentation that I gave in my president's update to the Board of Trustees, that I gave at the faculty meeting, that I did in an on-campus town hall, and now I'm sharing it with this audience, which is primary alumni. I think using the same presentation is one way that I can assure everybody that I'm delivering the same message and that you're hearing the same things that I want to share about the college. So with that, I will get started. So this is a reminder that Trinity College, I like to call us a continuously planning organization. Our planning is iterative. It's throughout the organization. We have developed from ideas to goals collaboratively. We've created objectives, tactics, and strategies. And we've aligned our resources with our strategies and evaluated those against our objectives to look at outcomes. We've communicated our progress as well as some of our failures. And this is just a reminder that going from an idea to a goal is not a linear process. We have made some minor changes in courses. As I said, our planning is iteratively. And so sometimes it feels as though we're moving forward. Occasionally we're moving back and then 2 more steps forward. But we are making significant progress towards our goal. And all of you on this call, I know, have helped in one way or the other as we continue to achieve our goals. This is just a reminder of what I call our planning timeline. When I arrived in 2014, and yes, I cannot believe that I have been president here at Trinity since 2014. When I came to the college, I knew I didn't want to start with a strategic plan because I needed to listen. But at the same time, I didn't want to tread water. So we started in 2014 with working goals. And then in 2015-16, we engaged in a very broad, bottom-up strategic planning effort that involved so many members of our community. In 2017, we adopted our new strategic plan, Summit. Between 2017 and 2020, we were implementing our strategic plan. And then, as you know, late in 2019 and in 2020, there was a small thing called a pandemic that we had to face. And so in 2020, in the spring and summer of 2020, we formed something called the President's Commission for the Future, in which a small group of trustees, faculty members, staff members, and a couple of students looked at the future of Trinity College and how we might want to emerge after the pandemic. Now, I think none of us thinks that we are completely through this pandemic, but the President's Commission gave us a lens to think about what we might need to do or modify in our original strategic plan based on some of the things that were happening in the world. And here in 2021, we have combined all of those planning efforts into something that I'm referring to as stackable strategies. And I'm going to share those strategies with you in just a few minutes. So here, I'm just reminding all of you of our mission statement, which was adopted in 2016. As the preeminent liberal arts college in an urban setting, Trinity College prepares students to be bold, independent thinkers who lead transformative lives. And if you've walked into Mather Hall, you can see our little motto there: engage, connect, transform. That is what we are trying to do. That's the mission that we are trying to achieve here at Trinity College. So as I mentioned, in 2017, we adopted the strategic plan Summit, which has 3 major pillars: to be a top-tier first choice college for students, faculty, and staff to engage with Hartford and the world, and to consider a sustainable future, both environmental sustainability as well as financial sustainability. Trinity College, as you know, is almost 200 years. And we want to make sure that we are sustaining the institution in a way that it will be here for at least the next 200 years. So, as I mentioned to you, we document the progress. So each year, we write a summary of the strategic plan. This is a copy or part of a copy of the summary of the progress that we made on our strategic plan that we posted in the spring of 2021. And as you see, the three major pillars of our strategic plan, and then the dots in red are suggesting the progress that we've made under our particular and specific pillars and goals, just to keep people abreast of our progress. It's hard to be engaged and involved with a strategic plan if you don't know what it is or how you're making progress. So we try to do that on a regular basis. And I thought I would share with you just some of the strategic outcomes that we have seen between 2016 and 2021. So I can promise you, we are making progress on our strategic goals. And let me share just a few of those with you. We have increased our annual financial aid budget from $42 million to $62 million annually, and we will continue next year. This is one of the largest increases percentage-wise in financial aid amongst our peers. Now, at the same time, so we brought more students to our campus and a socioeconomically as well as a racial and ethnically more diverse population. But do they come and do they stay? The answer is yes. So during this same period, our one-year student retention rate has increased from 88.5% to 91.4%. Also, we are involved in many surveys, and this is a survey from COFI, which is the Consortium of Financing in Higher Education, where all of the Ivy Leagues and little Ivies participate, or a number of them, actually not all of them, but we're lucky to be a part of this consortium. Our most recent senior survey showed that the seniors who are very satisfied with the intellectual environment at Trinity has increased over the last 3 years from 18.5% to 46.5%. And this is the very highest category. If we add in satisfied with the intellectual environment, the vast majority of our students, but at the very top, you can see not only are the students coming and staying, but they're much more satisfied with the intellectual environment here at Trinity. And as an academic institution, that's certainly something that we care about. At the same time, we have seen decreases in alcohol and drug policy violations. So we're bringing different kinds of students, and they are acting differently as they are here. And we're seeing decreases in these policy violations. Now, I have an asterisk there because I decided not to show you data from 2021. That was the COVID year in which students were, for the most part, staying in their rooms, and we didn't have the usual number of events on campus. So that didn't feel like a fair comparison to me, but from the year, so we're looking therefore at 2019, 2020 violations. And once again, over this 5-year period, they have decreased significantly. Now, also, we care about what students do while they're here, how satisfied they are, but how do we help launch them to their careers? How do we help them make that transition to being an alumni of Trinity College, an alumni, sorry, of Trinity College? This is showing you that during this period, since we have started doing surveys 6 months after our seniors graduate, we have seen that 93 to 96% of our students, 6 months after they graduate, are either in graduate school, employed, or have fellowships within 6 months. And during the pandemic, so in the summer of 2020, when we surveyed our students, still 93% of them were employed in graduate school or fellowships. So that transition, that launch to life after your student life at Trinity has been very successful for our students. I hope that you saw the news that I shared at the end of the last fiscal year. And if you look at Trinity College's endowment from 2016 to the most recent 2021, fiscal year 2021, you see that our endowment has increased from $524 million to $783 million. Now, the return rates were very good for a lot of our peers last year. We were a bit above the average of endowments across our peer groups, and very happy to see that percentage increase. But I think it's important to understand that the endowment is what ensures the long-term stability of the institution. And we are very happy that our endowment is stronger than before. I also want to share with you, and I'll come back and talk about it a little bit more, that as part of our comprehensive campaign, we have already raised $231 million on a $500 million or a $500 million goal. And so we are getting close to 50%, almost 50% of our goal. And we are still in what some people refer to as the quiet phase of the campaign. And finally, I want to share that also during this period, we participated in a survey that is done at Tufts University looking at voting rates and the percentage of our students that are registered to vote. And I am very happy to share with you that between 2016, the presidential election in 2016, and 2020, we saw an increase in the voting rate of registered students from 59.2 to 79.3%. As we all know, a lot more people in this age group voted, but Trinity's participation rates increased more than the national average that was shared in the Tufts survey. So we're bringing more diverse students to campus, socioeconomic, racial, and ethnic. When they are here, they are returning. Their retention rate is higher. They're more satisfied. They have reduced policy violations. They are launching into great positions after they leave. Our endowment is strong. Our fundraising is strong. And as I said, the students that are coming, If you ask me how I know they're engaged, I think one of those signs is, do they vote? We don't tell them how to vote. That is not the point. But we do tell them engaged citizenship is to go out and exercise your right to vote. So we are doing great things, amazing things together as a college. These are just some of the things I want to remind everyone about. In the top left corner, you will see Amber Pitt, one of our faculty members in environmental sciences, and still the relationship between faculty and students is at the core of what we do at Trinity College. We have now a Bantam network that helps with that transition of our students from high school or wherever they were before Trinity to life at Trinity. We have engaged in special opportunity hires that has continued to sustain and even increase the quality of fabulous faculty members that we have here on our campus. We have passed and we are implementing a new curriculum, which is adding units that are related to experiential certificates and wellness. We have a very strong career development center, and that is producing 93 to 96% of our students after they graduated engaged with in jobs, early career jobs, and these are good jobs. That's a whole nother discussion that we can have. And at the same time, we still have some of those classic programs that probably many of you remember. So my bottom right corner is showing a couple of years ago when I was able to go to the Rome campus, which is still going strong after more than 50 years of existence here at Trinity. So, as I said, we were plugging along on our strategic plan, doing really well, and then there was a pandemic, which made us rethink what we need to do for long-term sustainability for Trinity College. So I just thought I would list here some of the important enablers that the President's Commission thought we need to pay attention to for Trinity College to successfully move into the next century and beyond. So, building the endowment, differentiating Trinity, diversifying our revenue sources. None of these are things that should be a total surprise to you, but it was very good of the commission to kind of codify those things that we need to do next. We need to invest in technology and data analytics that will help us understand and use data to help predict the future. We also want to make sure that our Trinity education, our core liberal arts, remains relevant and that we have experiential learning, lifelong learning skills, professional preparation and readiness that are all part and complementary to the liberal arts experience, that we continue to be agile and innovative, that we create a diverse and inclusive climate, and that we take steps that are consistent with our mission and our priorities that will improve the college's rankings. So, with that in mind, we have been working on something that I'm referring to as stackable strategies. It is clear that these strategies are interdependent, but also I think about them as being able to be kind of stacked one upon the other. One is related to education and academics, the student experience, enrollment, retention, and graduation, related to our employees, both faculty and staff, related, as I said, to the library and digital transformation and analytics, our facilities and environmental sustainability, as well as our outreach and engagement. So to just share that with each of these stackable strategies, we've listed some overarching objectives. And then I've just tried to provide an example of some of the things that will be involved in those strategies over the next 5 years. As I mentioned, we have just launched a new curriculum that I'm referring to as the Trinity Plus curriculum, both the enduring liberal arts, but also experiential learning complementing it. We have a student experience strategy, and these are some of the things that we are paying particular attention to in our overarching objectives. And these are some of the strategies that we will use to improve the student experience here at Trinity College. I thought I would mention just a little bit about this creating an integrated leadership curriculum with co-curricular support. I have open office hours. I try to do them every 2 to 3 weeks on campus, and anyone on campus can sign up for them. So in the last 18 months, they've been virtual. And so I've had 10-minute appointments with anyone that signs up. And one of the more consistent things that I hear from our students is their desire to test and use their leadership skills and have the support of the Trinity community, including alumni support, with their leadership skills. So I just thought I would highlight that because that's a strategy that I think can involve so many people that are on this Zoom call. We have enrollment, retention, and graduation strategies. Obviously, if we want to be a top tier first choice institution, it's about whom you enroll, how you retain them, and the percentage of them that graduate. And with these, we do have specific outcome metrics. So our first year retention rate, we're trying to improve from 90% to 94% over the next 5 years. I shared with you that since I've arrived, we have moved from 88.5 to 91.4. So we are definitely moving in the right direction. But I want to assure you that we want to continue to retain the great students that we recruit. And how many want to come back after the first year, I think is a sign of how well we are doing in integrating those great students that we recruit. We also are looking at 6-year graduation rates, and we want to improve from 82% when I came to 87%. And then what you can see below that is our latest outcomes, where we are in 1-year retention and 6-year graduation rate. And I will mention to you that these are things that are counted, for example, in U.S. News and World Reports. And while we are looking at those metrics that correlate or support our mission, we are paying attention and improving those metrics when we can. And I just want to remind you, looking here at 6-year graduation rate, that takes 6 years to change. So some of these metrics will take time to improve and increase, but that's exactly what we're doing. We have strategy related to employees, faculty, and staff, and you can see our overarching objectives here. But you can also see we have specific strategies related to those. And right now, we have engaged an external consulting firm, Siegel, which is looking at our employee compensation study. And right now, that is particularly important. I think everyone, almost regardless of the industry that you're in, we're hearing about the Great Resignation. We're hearing about people who post-COVID are thinking differently about their jobs. And take my word for it, we are very sensitive to those things here, even in higher education, which is more stable than a lot of industries. And we know to keep the best employees, you have to compensate them fairly and well. And so we want to understand for each and every position that we have relative to our peers and relative to kind of rates here in the Hartford region, are we doing well? As I said, our fifth strategy is related to libraries and digital transformation. You can see some of the overarching objectives for that strategy here. And these are some of the objectives that, or some of the outcomes that we will be looking for. Modernization of our IT. When you look at student satisfaction, it's probably no surprise to you that having a modern functioning IT system is essential to attract the best students and retain them, as well as faculty and staff members. And, we also, of course, are talking about having a culture of data where we actually look at outcomes and measure them and use those data and information to feed back in to make everything that we do better. We have a facilities strategy, and we are looking at long-term sustainability. I thought I would share with you in terms of our capital spending. Between fiscal year 17 and 21, we did spend $77 million improving our capital facilities. And we will spend, over the next 5 years, we are planning to spend $135 million, including, we hope, what will be raised during our comprehensive campaign for our capital needs. I would bet that if I asked you, all of the people who are in the audience, name one of your favorite places on Trinity campus, you could, because we have one of the most architecturally beautiful campuses in the country. We are always in the top 10. And so when you have such a beautiful campus, it takes a lot to maintain it. And so I think it's important that we are paying attention to our capital spending. The plan is to increase it. And there's still lots of things that will be left to do, even when we get through these investments. As you can see, kind of on the left, what are some of the things that will be included in this next 5-year plan, and the things that probably won't be included because still our financial resources are limited. In terms of outreach, engagement, and advancement, of course, we are eagerly anticipating the college's bicentennial in 2023, and you will be hearing more about the bicentennial in the coming months. But I thought I would share with this group just a little bit about the comprehensive campaign. As I mentioned to you, our goal is $500 million, and that's a 5 with a lot of zeros after it. The campaign will be ending, in June of 2025. As well as raising money during this capital campaign, we expect to increase our volunteer basis, and I hope that you will be involved in that. We hope to increase bequests, leadership donors, as well as our annual fund, all coming together for this very ambitious goal, of which I mentioned we are getting close to halfway. So, just sharing with you again what I'm referring to now as stackable strategies, ways that we want to engage outcomes that we will be looking for over the next 5 years. I presented them as stackable, but obviously they are interrelated and interconnected. I think the biggest question I have is, how will you be involved in Trinity College's future? We need you, and we need you now. And we think that's best and easiest when you know what we're doing, what we're trying to achieve, and how we're trying to achieve it. But I promise you, we cannot do it without you. So thank you for indulging me. And I think now I will, if you give me a moment, stop sharing my screen and then take some questions that Steve will share with me.
Thanks, Madam President. We appreciate that. You touched quite a bit on the campaign, but Charlie Kurz, our tireless and enthusiastic leader of the class of '67, is interested to also know what the key priorities of the Comprehensive Capital Campaign are. Are you able to touch on that just a bit?
Certainly. Just to share a little bit, what is in that $500 million campaign? Now, we are still defining some of the specifics within priorities, but here is what I can share with you. Financial aid, the goal will be $100 million. Academic distinction, $100 million. The annual fund, which is involved in a comprehensive campaign, should total over that time period $80 million. Athletics, endowment, and facilities, $65 million. The student experience, $45 million. And then the chapel endowment and facilities, $10 million. So that is how we, kind of come to this $500 million goal. And we certainly need to do that to have a sustainable future. And I think over the next couple of days, you will be hearing some big announcements from us and some of the goals that we're starting to chip away at here in this comprehensive campaign, pardon me.
Thank you. This question was put forward in advance by several folks, and I know it's on your mind as well. What is Trinity doing to improve in national rankings publications and to improve and promote its reputation?
Right. Thank you for asking that. And I tried to integrate that a little bit into some of the slides that I showed you. So I want to answer that in two ways. One, we do pay attention to the rankings, and we focus on those outcomes that are consistent with the mission of the college. But one thing I can assure you is that we pay attention to many of these rankings that come out. I also want to share with you that they are slow to change. I just want to give one example. U.S. News and World Report looks at 6-year graduation rate. And they look at 6-year graduation rate and they average 4 years. So since I have been at Trinity College, next year will be the first year that a graduation rate that I had anything to do with since I have come here rolls onto the U.S. News and World Report metric. These rankings have long tails and are very often looking at metrics that are improving but are averaged over many years. I can't change that. So what I think that we should do is create our own dashboards and metrics so that you can see how we are doing against the outcomes that we care about. And some of those are part of U.S. News and World Report and other rankings, and some of them are not. But I think we need to pay attention to our own metrics and how we are improving them. And what I was trying to show you today is on a number of those things over the last 5 years, we have made significant progress, and we will continue to do so.
And apart from that, as part of that question for some and apart for others, people sort of asked what the Ology Project was intended to do and how that might help us.
Right. So the Ology Project is, we have been working with an external consultant, a branding and marketing firm, to look at our reputation, and they have focused in particular on prospective students and on our alumni. And I am sure that there are people on this call who've responded to alumni surveys. I think they also contacted some of our parents. So we are hearing from Ology what people are saying, what a bit more about Trinity's reputation, and then they are going to help us understand where there are opportunities to improve our reputation. So this branding project is going to be looking at ways that we might be able to use some marketing techniques to help improve our reputation, because I believe sincerely that we are better than our reputation. We have created the substantive changes. Oop, there was my light, sorry. So I'm a little bit darker now than I was before. But I think that it's important to improve our reputation and to have some professionals help us do that. And that's what we think this branding and marketing project is going to help with. But it can't help unless you're getting better and unless you're doing things well. And I think that's happening.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Our dear friend and former SGA president from the class of 16, Josh Frank, asks, can you tell us a little bit about the vital current relationship between Hartford and the college?
Right. So I would say that our relationship, the relationship between Trinity and Hartford, is constantly improving. I think it is clear to both the city of Hartford as well as to Trinity College that our futures are inextricably linked. There is no question about it. There are all kinds of activities in which we've been engaged for years. You probably know about Trendfo Cafe, which is an information cafe on the border of our property. One of the new things that we've been doing is offering free tax service to low-income individuals to be able to have their taxes done by some of our students who, as part of a class, have become certified tax consultants for low-income people. That's one of those ways in which our students get out into the community. The community members realize that people at Trinity are there, interested and willing to help them. So there's much still to be done, but we continue to build our reputation and work strongly with Hartford Hospital, Connecticut Children's Hospital, through the Southside Institution Neighborhood Alliance, to improve our surrounding neighborhood and our connection with downtown Hartford. And as you know, we have opened our downtown Hartford campus that has a liberal arts action lab and now an innovation center.
Joyce Kraniski, our volunteer extraordinaire for the Trinity Club of Hartford.
Hi,
and
Joyce.
the Women's Leadership Counselor from the class of 73.
Right.
And Jim Shea also has joined her. These questions up until now have been sent to us in advance, and Jim Shea sort of joins Joyce's question tonight, and Jim is a current parent. Can you share your view of the current situation of women's athletics at the college, as there have been a few recent stories about inequities that have made the press?
Absolutely. So the first thing that I want to share with everyone is that this weekend, I was at the NCAA Division III Championship that was for field hockey, women's field hockey, that was held on Trinity's campus. And our women's field hockey team, I watched every minute of the game there from the booth, wasn't able to prevail over Johns Hopkins, but they held them to a score of 0-1. And this was the farthest that our field hockey team has gone in the national championships in the last 20 years. So the first thing that I want to say is congratulations to our women's field hockey team that was so vitally involved in the articles that you're referring to in the paper. And so a couple of things that I want to say. We work hard at equity issues here on Trinity's campus. We don't always do it perfectly, and we're constantly trying to improve. So I would say the crux of the issue that many of the women were speaking about and that was in the newspaper was about, for the most part, the viewing stands for the different stadiums. And they are different based on the sizes of the crowd, but we had made commitments to the women's field hockey team that we had not yet fulfilled. And for that, I am sorry that they hadn't yet been fulfilled. We were planning to do so, but I think when it comes to equity issues, that's not a good enough answer. So what I will say in response is that when the issues were pointed out to us, we made some short-term improvements such that we had a wonderful, wonderful Division III championship on our campus. And several people remarked on kind of the beauty of the setting. And it was a picture perfect November day here on campus. The fields look beautiful. We were able to increase the capacity in the women's field hockey and address some of the issues that they had. Now our job is to continue to make some improvements and to continue to pay attention to the issues that were brought forward to us. So one of the things that I insisted upon is putting in place a broader committee that looks at these issues so they don't come up after a facilities project is completed, but that those voices are heard during the process. So we tried to correct in the short term for field hockey some of the issues, particularly related to the Division III championship that was there. But I think just as importantly, we have put in place a process so that it doesn't happen again. That's my job as president. When we find a problem, we begin to correct it.
Thanks, Joanne.
You're welcome.
Thanks also to the audience. The questions are rolling in, and we'll try to get to a few more. And then I promise what we'll try to do, we're not going to be able to get to all of them, but we will attempt to answer them offline in the coming days to get answers to your questions. So fear not. From William Roth, who has been waiting patiently and asked this question at 7:09 p.m. He says, when he was at Trinity in the 60s, it seemed that the student body was geographically diverse. Students came to the college from many states beyond the East. We were disappointed that when our daughter attended in the 90s, the geographic diversity had diminished. While I know that there are many foreign students, what is the stateside diversity at this time?
Right. Oh boy, I'm going to try and get this right because I saw these statistics earlier today. So you were testing my memory. I believe that our student body represents 41 states in the US and 80 countries from around the world. So we have increased our domestic diversity by quite a bit. We need to, I think, focus more on our domestic diversity because many of us know, looking at the demographics of the country, that New England population of 18 to 22-year-olds is declining faster than in most parts of the country. So if Trinity College does not extend beyond New England, we don't have a sustainable future. So thank you for asking the question. We're paying attention. We're in 41 states, but I think, one, I hope we can be in all 50, but I also think that there are particular parts of the country in which I think we can do better. I think the branding and marketing exercise that Ology is engaged in right now will help us reach prospective students in a broader array of states. But thanks for the question.
Thanks, Joanne. James Gascoigne, or Gascone, my apologies if I'm pronouncing that incorrectly, has a question similar to one that was asked in advance by Tim Steinert, who's a current parent. How does Trinity differentiate itself from its liberal arts peers, and what is its value proposition?
All right, thank you. So I think I'm going to answer that in two ways, because I really shouldn't talk for the next 45 minutes on that issue. Do you think? Steve, that's probably a little long. So let me try by saying two things. One, we have an engineering program, an ABET accredited engineering program. Most of our liberal arts peers have not included engineering in the liberal arts. That is a very popular and demanding major. So one way is engineering program. Second thing, maybe I will share three things. The second thing that I would say is that I shared earlier this year what I considered some truly phenomenal statistics about Trinity students 1 year after graduation. Trinity College ranked number 17th in the nation for salaries 1 year after students graduate from Trinity. Harvard was one, MIT was number 2. We were one of 3 or 4, I think 3 liberal arts institutions that was in the top 20. Now, the value of a Trinity College education cannot be measured simply by the salary that you have 1 year after you graduate. But it's important. It's important if you were on financial aid and are trying to pay back loans. It's important what that salary looks like 1 year after. And Trinity College was number 17th in the nation with all colleges and universities counted. That's one way that we measure our value. I would say, more importantly, and a little bit harder to measure, is the value of a liberal arts education, the flexibility that it provides you, and the ability to be a lifelong learner. Because we all know that the students who graduate today will probably have 5 jobs in their first 6 years after they graduate. So we're not trying to prepare our students just for a single job when they graduate, but how to learn, unlearn, and relearn information such that they will be continuous lifelong learners, because that's the kind of flexibility that you are going to need for a future in which we can't even predict what all the jobs of the future will be. So, engineering, 1 year salaries, longer term salaries. I could give you other data, as well as other distinctive programs that we have, like our legislative internship program, where our students go and work at the Capitol. Those experiences, experiential learning, is a way that I think Trinity differentiates itself from its peers. And we can do so because we are in a city and our students can have experiences during the semester, where so many of our liberal arts peers, those have to wait for the summer because they are in more rural settings and don't get that kind of experiential learning. As I said, I could go on for another 45 minutes, but I hope I've shared just a few things.
Thanks, Joanne.
You're welcome.
A birdie whispered in my ear that you were close, and William will be happy on the number of current states represented in the undergraduate student body, and it's actually 48.
48?
Yes.
Oh my goodness. Oh, that's wonderful.
Which is, of course,
I wonder which ones that we don't have. So that's
right.
Great. But as we talk about the number of states, that's important. But I also know that there's certain regions in which we don't think we're well enough represented. For example, Atlanta, Washington, D.C., Chicago, those are urban areas in which we feel as though we should be drawing more Trinity students. So 48 states is fantastic, but we still could do better in some of these regions. And as I said, we're hoping that this branding and marketing exercise will help us understand how to target some of those specific markets outside of the Northeast, as well as continue to do well in the Northeast.
Well, Joanne, just like your 7.5 years at Trinity, this hour is going by far faster than we might have imagined. Let me finish with this one question, and then I promise we're going to send Jennifer a check in the mail for this question, but it just seems like a fitting way to end, and I'll let you close with any thoughts too, Joanne. Jennifer Zakara says, President Berger-Sweeney, you are doing a great job. Is anyone giving you this feedback? You have a huge job to advance our college in a pandemic and at a time of educational transformation. How do you take time to restore yourself so that you can keep doing a great job for us?
Oh, well, thank you very much for that question. And you are making me smile as I answer it. A couple of things. I love to get out first thing in the morning before most people are around on campus. And now with the time change, it's when the sun is rising in the east and setting in the west. One of the things that sustains me is the incredible beauty of this campus. And I'm not kidding about that. I get up in the morning and exercise when it's quiet, when there are not a lot of people out. And watching the sunrise, actually, one of the places I love to watch it is over in the field hockey field, because it's, basically our easternmost border. And watching the sun come up and being outside and being able to exercise is one of those things that sustains me. But the other thing that sustains me that I want to share with you is the students themselves. I'll share with you that in the beginning of August, this past August, I was feeling a little down, and I was thinking, this is such a hard job. Will I be able to continue to do so? And then towards the middle of August, the students started to come back. They started to trickle in, and then towards the end of August, come in these droves. And they came in with energy and excitement and challenging me. And I recognized that what I missed most last year with the pandemic was that regular interaction with the students, walking down the long walk in Mather while I'm grabbing a bite to eat. And that even though we clearly were on campus and students were here, we were still kind of sequestered and more secluded. And as soon as the students started coming back, and I started seeing them regularly and interacting with them, and we had lots of events as we started the semester, I realized that that is where my energy comes from. So those are two of the things that sustain me. And I thank you for asking. And I do read a lot. I just love books. So those are three things. Thank you so much for spending this time. I know it's Thanksgiving time. It's a very busy week for all of us, but please, I wish you a very, very happy Thanksgiving. And I hope that we all leave this session and are truly grateful for something, because we have so much to be grateful for, including being a part of the incredible Trinity College community. So thank you.
Thank you, Madam President, and thanks to our audience as well. Thank you for all being so engaged and for being great advocates for Trinity. My best wishes for a happy Thanksgiving. Good night, everyone.